Welcome to Fatherhood Field Notes podcast, where I interview incredible fathers, gaining wisdom from their stories for you and I to grow in our craft. I'm your guide, Ned Schaut, father to 5 kiddos, currently ages 12 to 19, and a husband to my rad wife, Sarah, working on our 21st year of marriage. So yes, I am in the thick of it with you, my friends, and I am working daily to rebel against the low expectations for fathers and create a world where fathers know who they are as they show up for their families. You and I have the greatest opportunity to impact our world to the way we embrace our fatherhood role. This episode is brought to you by The Adventure of Fatherhood, helping men discover their powerful fatherhood role and build their fatherhood skills. The role of the father is to serve, guide, steward, protect, and of course, find joy and have fun in the messiness of it all. Today's guest is my friend, Eric Rogell, incredible man, husband, stepdad, author, podcast host, leader of men, doing amazing work in the world, fighting for men's hearts to have the courage to be themselves. Enjoy meeting my friend, Eric. Eric Rogell, welcome to Fatherhood Field Notes. How you feeling today?
Feeling great, Ned, man. I appreciate you having me on. It's an honor.
Yeah, I already enjoyed our brief conversation before. I watched a talk you did that you sent over to me. Love what you're sharing with men. Looking forward to talking about this with you. So here's my first question right out the gate. How old do you find yourself today?
I actually, in a couple of weeks, I'm going to achieve level 60,
Let's go. How does that feel?
which sounds better than 60 years old. So I just say level 60, but that's where I'm at right now.
How are you feeling about level 60?
What I love it, man. I've never felt better. I was just telling my wife that I feel better now than I did in my 30s and 40s. I'm working out every day. I'm doing some exercise. I'm feeling great. It's wild. I think I'm aging in reverse.
Love it. When you turned 50 and you thought about this decade, what did you hope would be true for your 50s and then what was true about it and then what was different?
Great question. I think when I hit 50, there was actually a certain level of, oh man, this is going to suck. It was just felt old. And the more I let go of that, the more I release the 50s are a decline, the start of your real decline, because 40s, you're still kind of in it. You're feeling great. At least I was. And I felt 50 was maybe going to be rough. And to be honest, my mom passed away at 58. So I almost had this clock going. Tick, tick, tick. I'm getting closer to when she passed away. And am I going to have the same thing? She had a heart attack at 58. And so that was weighing on my mind too. And these things started to come up. But listen, it's about being on purpose and having passion. And when you have that, I don't think the age really matters, because I'm finding that now at 60, that the age is really nothing. So in my 50s, I did some really great stuff in my 50s. I got involved in this work. I launched a bunch of my stuff. I wrote a best-selling book. I decided to produce a documentary film that's right now is on the festival circuit, and it's winning best documentary awards at the festivals where it's being shown. And I did all of that in my late 50s. And it really hit me, Ned. I'll tell you that there is no deadline. I'll say you always hear the term, you're never too old. And it really, in my 50s, I really learned that you're just never too old. And I said, I'm just about to hit 60 and I feel fantastic. And I got more to come. I'm just getting started. So it's been a great ride so far.
Man, I love hearing that. And your approach into jumping into the 60s is different than your approach jumping into the 50s. What shifted for you? So you're about to turn 50. You're in your early 50s. What was the turning point where you're like, oh, I'm not old. I got freaking half a life to live, right? And I know some stuff now. Was there a specific turning point for you?
I don't know if there was a specific turning point. I've been doing a lot of meditation work and self work on the self and human consciousness work. I get a lot of that from my mentor. And I started that right around when I turned 50. I think I was maybe 48, 49 when I started that work and decided to just embrace it and say, listen, I create whatever I want to create. I create my own life. Nothing is thrust on me. I'm in command of it all. And that became more and more and more apparent in my 50s. And I think probably around 54, 55, I don't feel any kind of decline. I feel great. I'm working out, I'm exercising, I'm eating well, I'm happy, and I'm doing good. So it never really was a turning point. It was very subtle, I think. Now that you asked that question, I put my attention on it. It was very, very subtle going in. And then I'll tell you, once I hit 58 and passed it, that whole, oh, am I going to do the same thing my mom did? All of that just evaporated. And then it became, man, I can just go as long as I want.
Yeah, dude, that's so cool. I'm 42 and I've been really inspired. I mean, even meeting you, seeing your approach coming into 60s, but just this last weekend I was with a group of men in Breckenridge and our wives actually a little marriage retreat. It was super epic, but one guy that stands out to me, Francis Anfusio, he was a pastor for many years. He's 76. Been married 50 years, and I just see the life in this guy. The growth, the learning, you said, right? He has purpose and passion. So age is less of an effect because there's not this, well, I hope I retire at 55 or 65 and then fricking piss my life away doing whatever I thought was important. You know what I mean? Golfing or whatever, which is fine. Sure, golf, but golf after you've earned it, providing value in the world. Eric, how many years have
It's a great thing that you bring up. I just want to jump in there with something because you say retired because where I live right now, and I'm in Central Florida. I used to live in Fort Lauderdale. We moved about an hour and a half north, and a lot of retirees in my neighborhood. There's some young families, but there's a lot of retirees, and they're always looking at me because we're always so busy. Like I said, I started doing documentaries and started another business and work with young men and work with the executives, and they see me running around and, when are you going to retire? I'm retire from what? What am I retiring from? This is what I love doing. I mean, I love writing. I love working with people. I love taking men on adventure trips. I love making the films. And they're, oh no, I couldn't wait to retire. And I see them out there. And I got one guy that lives near me. And he's watering his lawn every morning. He's got nothing else to do. They're bored. There's no passion there anymore. They worked a job they really didn't love just so they could make enough money to retire. And now that they're retired, they sit around and watch TV. A couple guys play golf, and you said play golf and do whatever, but they never really achieve their purpose or live their passion. And I see that. And that to me is a big lesson.
Yeah, and I would tell you, so I would guess that most of my listeners are probably between 30 and 45. And what I would tell you guys listening right now is there is an enormous amount of wisdom that is sitting around bored as hell. Go and find it. Go find that dude who's watering his grass. Hey, will you go to lunch with me? Oh, you've been married 30 years. Tell me about that. Oh, you had a successful business. Tell me about that. I mean, right now, Eric, I feel when I'm in a room with 65 to 75-year-olds, that to me is a sweet spot for where Ned wants to be spending time. And it's so unfortunate that our generation in a lot of ways, because they might not be able to know. So funny. I'll give you a story. I'm with this guy this week and he's 73 and he's didn't really know how to order something on Amazon. Yet when I hear his story, the wisdom he can share with me about real shit, real life, this is the guy I want to be spending time with. The problem is most 35, 40-year-olds are looking at that guy going, he's useless to me, right? He doesn't know anything. And you're like, dude, you are out of your mind. This guy's been married for 40 years. That's the hardest thing to accomplish in this life. I mean, so anyways, there's a lot of wisdom out there, guys. So go find it.
No, and listen, I hear from young men all the time. Look, I'd love to have a mentor. I know you have a mentor and you talk about them and all this kind of stuff. And I would love to have a mentor, but I don't know where to find one. And see, what you just said was so brilliant because they're everywhere. They're everywhere. If you just drop the ego and drop the judgment on what you're looking at over there and go, wow, that guy's got some wisdom. He's got some battle scars. I know he's lived a life. He's got some. And listen, I get young guys come up to me all the time and they say, hey, Eric, can I take you out to lunch and get some advice from you? And I love that you use the word wisdom because I always tell them, no, I don't give out advice because advice comes from here. It comes from the head. It's all ego based and what you should do. Hey, Ned, what you should do this and you should do that. And right away, especially as men, our defenses go up. We're like, no, man, screw you. But when you go to somebody and you ask them for their wisdom and they say, yeah, man, look, here's what happened to me. Here's what I experienced. I had that experience similar and here's what it looked for me. And here's what I did about it. And then here's the result that I got. Well, now you can take some of that wisdom and you can mold it into what you need for your own life. And then it just becomes fascinating and beautiful. And now you've got this relationship growing where you're getting it from stories, you're getting it from real life experience, you're getting it from the heart. So advice is from the head, wisdom's from the heart. And you got to seek out those guys that have been through what you are about to go through or going through and look for the men who are ahead of you on the path, man. They have and you said the guy's out there watering his lawn. I bet he would love to sit down with a young guy and he's a retired cop. So he's seen a lot of stuff, had a lot of experience. I'm sure he'd love to share some wisdom. with some people. So yeah, go out and find them.
Go find them. And I'll tell you, so I've been running my company since 2008. It's an insurance agency. We're brokers. And I was reading this book and it talked about board of advisors. So I went out and asked 55 plus year olds who I knew, a couple of them were retired, this, that, and the other. Hey, would you meet with me 4 times a year? And they're all, oh, we would love to. Nobody told me no. We would love to do that. And I'm like, this lady, she retired from a business that she was overseeing 600 people. And now she's like, sure. Are you joking me? She started off in the mailroom, retired with 600 employees that she's overseeing, and she wants to sit on a board for me. So the point, guys, is go find these people. They're out there. Eric, you brought something up that I want to ask. We talked about wisdom versus advice in relation to us and a mentor. But what about as a father? I heard you talk about this, and I just think, dang, this is a really good mindset to have. I have a 16-year-old son, 4 daughters and a son. Talk to me about being a father and sharing wisdom versus sharing advice.
Yeah, that's a great thing to do. And I'll tell you, I actually gave a talk a while back for a men's group, a local men's group here in town. And I shared about wisdom and sharing your wisdom with your kids. And one of the guys that was there has 2 teenage sons. And he was coming from advice. And he said, I would tell them, no, what you should do is you should be going to ball practice. You should be joining a team, playing soccer, playing ball, whatever it is, but you should be out there doing. And he said they kind of rebelled against him. One of them like just enjoyed fishing way more than organized sports, but he'd love to go out and go fishing. And he said, when I started to share with them stories about me learning to fish from my father or grandfather, they actually, their ears perked up because I wasn't telling them what they should do. I was sharing my experience. And he said over the next couple of weeks, it gave him the courage. And listen, you've got to have the courage to do this. We have a thing in the work that I do. It's called the Sacred 7 Core Values. And it's courage, honesty, integrity, commitment, duty, honor, and love. And the first 3 are so important because if you have the courage to be ruthlessly honest with yourself first, then you can be a man of integrity. Because you can be honest with yourself, you can be honest with other people. Then you live in integrity. So he took that and he said, I had the courage to be really honest with my sons and tell them where I screwed up in my life, where I made really bad mistakes. He said, I told them some things that I swore I might never tell my sons if I had them, stuff that I did when I was younger. And he said it was amazing because it created this bond between them where they felt honored that he was sharing this with them, that he believed in them enough and loved them enough and trusted them enough that he could share these stories with them. And so he started coming from wisdom. And he actually has this written down. He put it on his mirror where it says, wisdom, not advice. But he said what it's been able to do for their relationship, just him having the courage to be that honest and sharing his experiences, he says changed everything. So I would say as a father, you're not supposed to be perfect. Trust me, I learned this the hard way in leadership in general. Because look, it's all mentoring. Fatherhood is mentoring. You're there to guide this young person on the path, and you're there to be the example. And most people take that. Most fathers take that as well. If I have to be the example, then I've got to be perfect. So I've got to hide my mistakes. I've got to hide my blemishes. I've got to hide all of these things. And it's exactly the opposite. Because I'll tell you, kids of any age are incredibly intuitive. And if you've got a mask on that you've put on because you want to pretend to be the perfect dad, they're going to see right through it. And they're not going to know they're going to know that you didn't have the courage to be honest and be a man of integrity. They would rather hear you own up and say, hey, what? I screwed up when I was your age. I did the same thing, right? Wisdom. Here's what I did. Here's what happened. Here are the consequences that I suffered. And here's how I came out the other side. And so it really all is mentoring as a father. That's important to have that relationship as a dad.
Question for you, and I'll tee it up with a little story. So my son just turned 16. He's got 4 sisters, but I feel this incredible responsibility to prepare him, right? Because he's going to be a father, run a business, whatever, have to provide for family. And I hate that. Not provide. He's going to steward the gifts God's given him for his family. But check this out. So we started a father-son group. We have a couple fathers, a couple kids coming over here, kind of going through some things once a month. And I was my night to share. And a couple days before, it was my night to share my story. I shared something with my son that I hadn't shared with anybody. And I was kind of going to ask his permission to share it that night in a couple days. And as I shared it, I was like, yeah, it's pretty heavy. I don't even think I want to share that. And he's, yeah, thank you for telling me and for trusting me with that. But I think it might be a little too much for an initial thing. It did create a deeper connection bond between the two of us. But the question I have for you, maybe we could unpack for a minute, is I think that sometimes as fathers, the reason why we don't share certain things is because we don't want it to seem as though we're giving permission to our son to then go and do that thing or whatever, right? So I want to share my wisdom. I want to share my stories while not giving permission that this is something you could do and you'll be fine. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do, and I think part of it is, look, they're going to make mistakes and they're going to do stuff. They may not do the same stuff that you did, but they're going to do stuff.
There's going to be stuff, yeah.
Yeah, and they're going to push the envelope a little bit. That's what we do as men. That side of us, I call it's the warrior archetype, and it's what I have lion-hearted as my work, and that's the lion side of us, right? And that lion side wants to explore, it wants to push, it wants to test boundaries, it wants to see where it can go. And listen, sometimes it's successful, and sometimes you learn from it, right? You end up banging it up. So I think for me, what I would say on that is, yeah, definitely share because they need to know that they can make mistakes and it'll be okay. Right. When we give them this level of perfection, right. And there's a great quote that I love and I use it a lot in when I speak. And it says, prepare the child for the road, not the road for the child. Meaning get them ready to know they're going to hit challenges. They're going to make mistakes. They're going to scrape their knees, bruise their elbows. They're going to bump their heads. All that stuff's going to happen. And it may not be the same flavor that you experienced, right? They may make a similar mistake, but testing a different boundary. And you have to be okay with knowing they're going to do that. But at the same time, letting them know that, hey, I'm here, right? I'm here. So if you screw up, there might be some consequences. Still going to love you. We're going to work it out. But I know mistakes are going to be made. And I think what that does is it gives these kids, especially, like I said, young men, permission to test and push. And I think it serves them great in later in life because they're not afraid of challenges then. They're not afraid of messing up. They're not afraid of making a mistake. They can take those risks that'll make them great men, great businessmen, great entrepreneurs, great athletes, whatever it is. They're going to have that permission they've given themselves to, hey, it's okay if I push this boundary and I have a negative result. But there's a big possibility I'm have a positive result. So it gives them that courage, right? We're encouraging them. And I think that's where that comes in.
Yeah. Okay. So the one thing that I'm kind of thinking through as you share this is I do think that we can help test them and give them opportunities to test their boundaries in things that are healthy for them. And I can't think of necessarily any major, otherwise they're going to go push the boundaries in somewhere else, right? So I'll just give a couple of examples that are possibly areas for me. I would not say that I'm a construction guy or super mechanical, but we're building an office at my house. My son's invited. We went and rented an excavator the other day. I have no idea what we're doing, but we had it, figured it out, and did what we needed to do. And I mean, my son operated the thing for 6 hours. So in my mind, that is okay. I'm gonna put you on something that you and I are both not really ready for. But we're gonna figure it out together, and we're gonna giving opportunities to put your kid in a situation where there's the potential for a little danger. There's a potential for we could screw this up, but we're gonna do it anyways. And my hope is that in situations that then when he's 11 o'clock at night with his friends down and sneaking into some hotel, that when other boundaries are opportunity to push, he might not need that to scratch that itch, if that makes sense.
I would agree with you 1,000%, Ned, on that. Really, truly, because you're giving him an opportunity. Number one, you're showing him trust. You're encouraging him. He's learning something new, a new skill that most young men his age probably don't know how to run an excavator, right? And you're telling him all that. And I think when you do that, it takes away the need for the negative stuff, the limiting stuff.
Yeah. And it's funny because when you go back to, I think we keep our kids so safe. Even right now, my son is all about his e-bike. And I mean, the videos he's posting of doing wheelies down the road, my wife is, oh gosh, stop it. But I think it's, if I'm so focused on protecting the road, creating this perfect road for him, right? I need to prepare him. He's doing things out in the open for us to see, which I think my hope is that then there's less desire to do things in the dark that we don't see.
100%. 100%. Right. Because he knows you trust him.
Yes. Okay. You said 7 core values. I'd like you to retell those to me, and then I'm going to pick one of them and ask you to go into it. So I got duty, honesty, integrity, love, courage. What else we got?
So they're in order. So it runs from courage is first, and then honesty, and then integrity. We talked about having the courage to be ruthlessly honest with yourself, lead you to live in integrity, right? The fourth one is commitment, and commitment's a pivot point. Commitment is commitment to yourself first, and then commitment to others. And it's about keeping those commitments, making and keeping those commitments. And then duty. And you have a duty as your responsibility to your family, to your country, to yourself, to your business, to whatever it is. So you have that duty, and then honor. And honor is really important, especially as young men. I've done some of the group stuff that I've done with men. We're honoring each other, but also honor your father. We had a trip one time. I took a bunch of guys to Glacier, Montana, and we did a thing. It happened to be right before Father's Day. And one of the guys went home and I'm going to honor my father on Father's Day. And he said he told his father all these things he honored about him and loved about him and appreciated about him. And he said he's never seen his father cry his whole life. He said his father was weeping. And he said it inspired his younger brother and sister to do the same. And the father was just so moved by this. He said, all I've done my whole life is just done for you kids so you could be successful. And they were all successful kids. And so that's honor. And it's very, very important that we honor ourselves, we honor others, and then love. And I'll be honest with you, Ned, when we were putting these together, was a group of about 9 of us, men, that do the work that my mentor, Rob James, put together, the Self-Discovery Life Mastery. Rob decided it was time for us to put a list of this together. And when love was brought up, I argued against it. I actually thought it felt weak, right? Gives you an idea of where I was at the time in my growth. And I said, no, that's just weak. Love, that just sounds sappy. But in all honesty, love's the most powerful thing there is in the universe. Love is, right? Love is all there is. And so we have love at the end of the list. So courage and love are the alpha and the omega of this list. And I use them as a litmus test, man. It's for me, it's if I get something that comes up or something that happens, I run through these 7 and it's got to fulfill them. Otherwise I don't do it. And especially integrity. If I do something and it doesn't feel it's in integrity, then I just don't do it. I don't commit to it. So yeah, they're a North Star. They're a way to guide yourself on the path.
Yeah. Okay. So as I hear you say these, this is going to be a very general statement, but I see or feel that there's a lot of men who are good at 1, 2, and 3, very self-focused. I'm myself, I'm learning and growing, and I'm kind of caught in this self-development, which is great, right? But sometimes there's the guy who at every month he's at the self-development thing. He's learning, and then is he applying it in his real life? Then I see other guys who are slowly dying on the 5, 6, and 7. So duty, it's my duty. I'm just going to go to work. It's the honorable thing to do. I'm going to love my family while they're slowly dying inside because they're not connecting the first 3 with the last 3 with the one that you have in the middle of commitment. So if we could spend a minute on commitment, that's really tying, okay, I'm choosing to become a better man for the sake of others, that I'm showing up. Really, my duty is, I'm just not loving my wife and my kids because I'm supposed to. It's my honor. It means the world to me, right? So any other thoughts that come up for you on this commitment piece, this pivot point? What does that mean to really connect the two?
Yeah, there's a lot of great stuff we can dive into on that one. I have a saying in the work that I do, and it is, if it's good for the king, it's good for the kingdom, right? So here's what that means. If the king is sick and broke and pissed off, sad, unfulfilled, tired, how does that reflect on his kingdom, right? Kingdom's going to be a mirror of that. But if the king is happy and healthy and wealthy and fulfilled and passionate and all of those things, well, then how is his kingdom look? So I get a lot of men who tell me, well, I'm working 80 hours a week for my family so I can provide, and I'm doing it for them. And that's martyr syndrome right there. You're just killing yourself for them. But when you take on, if it's good for the king, it's good for the kingdom, you understand that you actually are doing for yourself so you can do for them. right? You are being as strong as you can be so you can do for them. So, and a lot of men, once they've taken this on, love it. I have one guy, and his thing was when he got home from work, he didn't want to do the whole talk to his wife about the problems and what's going on, the bills that needed to be paid and all of that. He wanted to play with his kids. So he would tell me, and I happen to know his wife, and she told me he comes through the door now and he gives her a kiss, gives her a hug, and he goes, "What's good for the king is good for the kingdom. I'm going to go play with the kids for an hour." And she's like, "It's the most beautiful thing I've ever experienced because he's in there playing with them. He's having a great time. It's fulfilling the family." So tying it to commitment. We make commitments a lot of the time. And I know this was me. So I'm speaking from experience where I would make commitments or agree to commitments knowing full well I wasn't going to follow through just because I didn't want to say no to whoever that was, right? You get invited to a barbecue and you're like, "I don't want to go to your barbecue, dude." But I would say, "Yeah, oh, sounds great, man. We'll be there." And then you break that commitment the day before. And we do this to our family. We do this to our kids. Like we'll tell them, "Yeah, I'll be at your ball game." And then something comes up at work and you're like, "Oh man, I can't be there. I have to go do this." Well, what I tell men is look at what are you more committed to? Are you more committed to going to the ball game because you made that commitment and promise? Or are you more committed to some meeting at work that you might be able to change the day and time of? Where are you breaking commitments? And where are you keeping commitments? Where are you making commitments you're not going to follow through on? It is so much better to say no to somebody. And again, speaking from experience, I found this when I dropped the nice guy routine and, I'll be there and went into the look, man, I appreciate the invitation, but I'm not going to make it. That's really all you have to say. And a lot of times, "Oh, why?" They're trying to enroll you back in. Listen, I just told you I'm not going to make it. And the same thing with if you've made a promise to the family to do something and something else comes up, look at where you're more committed. And to me, it would be the family. And I would tell that meeting, "Hey, man, I'm either not going to be there or record it, send me the notes, do whatever it is, but you got to be committed." And I will tell you something else, Ned. This was a great thing. I interviewed a former Navy SEAL commander a while back, and he's now retired. He spent, I don't know, 19 or 20 years on the teams. He retired and he now coaches executives. And one of the things he told me that I couldn't believe, and I put it to the test, and he's right. He said, there are very, very few people who can commit to something for more than 5 days. And he said, that's what breaks the separates the SEALs from everybody else. When we commit, we are full on, locked down, laser focused, committed. But other people aren't. And if you can't, and he said, one of the major things is say 5 days. So I'm going to eat a certain way for 5 days. I'm going to cut sugar out of my diet for 5 days. I'm not going to have coffee for 5 days. I'm going to work out for 5 days or go for a walk or whatever. I'm going to write in a journal for 5 days. He said, most people make it to 3. And then they just, oh, that's it. And he said the one thing that he found was that the one person that we break commitments to more than anybody else is, who would you think, Ned? Who do we break the commitments to the most? Say it again? Ourselves. We break commitments to ourselves more than we do to anybody else. So the commitment, the sacred value of commitment is understanding how important it is to yourself and to people that are out there. Don't make commitments. Again, be ruthlessly honest about whether or not you're going to take this commitment on and stick to it, right? And that's the thing with commitment and why it's so important.
Yeah, I love the word you used. You said it's sacred, and our word is sacred. We as men, we get to speak life or death, and when we are making commitments, right, we're speaking life, but then our actions have to follow through on that. So, an activity I would challenge you guys to do is go write down your top 3 to 5 commitments. If you are looking at the life of Ned in this season, what are my top 3 to 5 commitments? And then look at your calendar the last 2 weeks and see, does it line up with what your heart wants, right? Are you doing something different with your time than what you're hoping? Because I think sometimes oh yeah, I date my wife. And you're like, okay, show me your calendar. Oh, shoot. Yeah, it was 6 months ago the last time we went on a date or whatever. So I think it's good to actually evaluate and be honest with yourself. Okay, a couple questions, Eric. I know we could wrap forever, and I'll say this in a bit, but I would to set up another podcast with you. So I'll bring that back in a bit. You are a stepfather to 3 adult girls. What advice would you give to a father who has found themselves on the path of being a stepdad, right? Because you had your experience, right, of them at different stages stepping in. I'm sure there was highs, I'm sure there was lows, but from your wisdom, what would you share with a guy who may be in the thick of it with a stepkid who he's trying to love and lead them?
That's a great question. I love that. And knowing I was coming on the show, it really made me look at where I was at when I was stepdad to these young women now. But one of them was 16 months old when her mom and I got together. And mom and I were together for about 8, 9 years. So I was really through the young years with her. And I think one of the things I would tell my younger self, and when we got together, I was in my early 30s. And what I would say is, was instant dad. Everyone always says that, oh, I'm gonna be an instant dad, an instant mom. Well, there's some greatness to being an instant dad, but one of the things that I would change was where I was at in my early 30s. I was still very, very much in the people pleaser, in the nice guy. Oh, I got to be the perfect dad. Here's this little girl. She's so cute. She's a year and a half, 2 years old. But I think the thing that I did more than anything that I would change is I did everything possible to make this girl me. And I think I even did it later on in my early 50s when I got together with Dawn, and her daughters were in their mid to late 20s at the time. Kind of the same thing, but I stopped myself on those because it wasn't really about having them me. I looked at it as, what purpose did it serve to work that hard to make them me, right? This is a mutual thing. We're going to be a family to the extent we're going to be a family. But my real role is to be that steward you mentioned earlier, to steward these young women and to be there for their mother and to be a really great husband to their mother and let them know how much I loved her and cared for her the same that they did. And when I did that with the relationship that I'm in now with those two young women, there was a little bit of at the beginning. And I just let them see how I was with their mom. And I tried to find points of interest. One of them is very into sports, watching tennis and watching F1 racing. And I was an auto journalist for a long time and I covered NASCAR and F1 and those kind of things. And so we kind of had conversation about that. And it was a natural bonding. It was an easier way than, oh, what can I do to make them me? And I will tell you, one of the things that I've learned is when you work to make people like you, they may like you, but they don't respect you, right? There's no respect there. And so that was really my biggest learning point. And I will tell you that in the work that I do now, and I think you mentioned that you saw a video of me speaking at a fatherhood event, and it really comes from my mentor, Rob, his mentor, Harry. Harry has a thing he calls the 3 lights of leadership. So I didn't come up with these. These are not mine. These are 100% Harry, and they're genius and they're brilliant. And there are different levels of what he calls them lights. I call them levels of leadership. And when you look at it in terms of being a father, and especially a stepfather now, the lowest level is friendship, being a friend or a companion. Now, when you look at that level, we're having a great time. Ned, you, me, we might chat once in a while, go out, have a beer, but I have no responsibility towards you. I don't have a duty to do anything with you. We're just friends, right? Now, a lot of fathers, and I will say stepfathers, I know that from my experience, and divorced dads who are now dealing with having to be with their kids on a weekend and one day during the week, and where they may have been working a long time and not seeing their kids enough and not being a disciplinarian, they want to be a buddy. They want to go, I'm going to hang out with my kids. I want to be their buddy. And there's a difference between being a buddy for them and being kind and loving toward them. And they don't need a buddy. They need the next level. And the second level of this is the guide. So this is where we spend most of our time as mentors, as parents, as leaders, is the guide. I am ahead of you on the path. I have wisdom. We spoke about this whole session. I am the guide. I have wisdom, and it is my duty to guide you along this path. Now I have a responsibility for you because I've taken on that role. I've taken on that duty, right? So for me, that's the level where we live. And as stepfathers, you've got to be that steward, that guide for those kids and for your new wife. As you go forward, being the example, being the guide, sharing wisdom, all the things we talked about today. And then the third level, the top level, is the guardian. And the guardian's the toughest one for most people, especially fathers and especially stepfathers, because the guardian is the one who has to take out his sword and kick your ass back on the path when you started to stray and done stupid shit. Right. So the guardian is a tough one. Talk about tough love. It's got to come from the heart, but it's putting them back on that path. And trust me, Rob is my mentor, has put his boot up my ass several times because that's his job as a mentor. That's his duty. If I'm being an idiot and I'm over here, he's got to kick my ass back over here. And a lot of people don't want to do that. It's very tough to do, right? It's the old quote, Ned, we've heard this. Everybody wants to be a lion until it's time to do lion shit. Well, the guardian is lion shit. That's when you have to say what needs to be said, not what they want to hear, but what they need to hear. That's when you need to point them back on the path. And it's tough as a stepfather because it's that whole "you're not my daddy" thing. But if you can do it the right way and you can do it from the heart and you can show them where they've strayed and how they got to get back on, it's usually received pretty well. So the friend or companion, the guide, and the guardian. And to me, that works for any father, any leader, stepfathers, business owners, executives, everything. But looking at it from that perspective.
Love that. Well, I'll say this here. I've not read your book, Lions Raised as Lambs. I would everybody go order that book, write a review on Amazon. I mean, when another man puts work into making masculinity, fatherhood, starts shedding light on that. I mean, I've written a couple books and it is a ton of work. So I would say just as a man, whether you read it or don't, I mean, read it, but go spend $15, order it. When it shows up at your house, take 2 minutes to write a review. Because if there's a man out there doing work in a world that is against us in a lot of ways, we have to honor that. So what I'd like to do is I ordered my copy. When I'm finished reading it, I'll have you on again and dig more into that.
Absolutely, man.
Love it. And then dudes, listen, go get that book. All right, a couple more questions I want to ask you about. When did you embrace fatherhood? So you said something important, and I do think that it is critical. One of the best gifts we can give our kids, stepkids, is to love their mother well. I think it is a massive. If you want to be a good dad, you got to be a good husband. It just is. So when did you embrace this, right? You meet a woman, you get together and you have this 16-month-old. Was there a point where you're like, okay, my role is significant? It is so significant. Was there a moment for you?
Yeah, there was more than one moment. You go through this. I met her mother and we started dating and she told me she had a kid and I was, oh, that's great. You have a kid, whatever. I was working with kids at the time. I had a martial arts studio. I was a martial arts instructor and I had my own school and I work with a lot of kids. So I had 30, 40, 50 kids. So I'm like, yeah, I can handle kids. And that's how I met her, by the way, was the mother of one of the kids in my school was her friend and said, oh, there's this great guy and you should meet him. And she came and I met her. And it was a while before I met her daughter. And so at the beginning, it was, oh, this is great. This is fun. We're having a great time. She's got a kid. I'm okay with that. Telling myself how mature I was, that I was okay with this. And then I met her daughter, and her daughter hated me at the beginning. She didn't want to be near me. Again, 16 months old. So she's, and she's yelling when she'd get near me. She'd go to push me away. And I was, oh, man, this is going to be really rough. If this kid just hates me, what am I going to do? And that's when I started down the path of I got to make this kid me, right? Which was again not ideal, but it became where this little one and I had a bond that was unbreakable. It was unbelievable. And I said, mom and I got married and we ended up getting divorced years later. And friends of mine came to me and said, I actually think you married her just because of the kid. You actually loved the kid more than you loved her. And that was interesting. That was a lot of people coming to me saying that. It wasn't just one person. It was several close friends that said, we saw the dynamic and you and the little girl, it was you guys had the relationship and the mom was just kind of there. And I'll be honest with you, I could really feel that. And so I told myself, should I ever be in this situation again, it's going to be for the right reason. And obviously, many, many, many years later, I'm in that relationship now. And these women are grown women. They both have amazing careers. They're self-sufficient. They don't need me for anything other than just tell myself, just continue to be the example. Continue to be that good man, that king archetype that loves their mother and takes good care of her. Safety and security are the two big things a lot of women look for, safety and security. And if I can make their mom feel safe and secure and loved, then that's really what it is. So I think those would be the two that I would say were kind of like, listen, it's, I would tell any man out there who's dating a woman or listen, I made a lot of guys, I'll never date a woman with kids. When I was younger, obviously my age now, their kids are grown, but though I don't want kids in the house. I don't want to be really, that's a mirror, man. You got to look at what do you not want to see in yourself? What are you unwilling to take responsibility for? Where are you not willing to step up and be an example and help guide this young person on the path? So those are some of the awarenesses I had around that.
Love it. Yeah, safety and security, so good. I'm sure we could dig into those. I know we're coming up to the end of our time today, so I do want to ask two final questions for our initial interview here. I like to ask this question, right? You are almost 60, and you probably have an opinion about your father. So, what's something that you appreciated about your dad, and what's something you wish he did differently? Now, again, obviously, we wouldn't always change our past because it's shaped who we are. I ask the question though because all the men listening, you might be a dad of a 2-year-old, but that 2-year-old is going to have an opinion of you at age 60, and it's going to be based on how you show up right now. So, what do you want them to say? And you have a lot of years ahead of you, depending on how old your kid is, to shape that. Right? Not to be, but to be respected. So, with that in mind, Eric, what's something you loved about your dad, appreciated, and what's something you would have him to do differently?
Yeah, I love that question because it's such a great question. And in my work, I kind of mentioned a little bit of it before. We have the four foundational archetypes: the warrior, the lover, the king, and the hero. So the warrior and the lover are our lion in our hearts. So I always tell men, lead with your warrior, support with your lover. And when I was a kid, there were times my dad led with his warrior and I just didn't know what I mean. I was, whoa, I don't want to be yelled at. I don't, you're scaring me. But he was doing it from the heart. He was doing it from king. He was the warrior and the lover. And I didn't realize that then. And the hero is so important because, look, we're all the hero of our own story. We all believe we're the hero of our own story. But what we don't really look at is we are also the villain of other people's stories, right? And you got dads that are out there know this. You are the villain a lot. You are guiding them. You're being the guardian. You're keeping them on the path, but they see you as the villain. And so that's kind of how I saw my father for a long time. I saw him as the villain. I blamed him for a lot of things. And so I would say, I'm going to lead with the limiting side where I felt my father didn't give me enough attention, right? He was an outstanding pitcher when he was a young man. He went to college on a baseball scholarship and I want to be a pitcher. And he would just put me down and say, you're never going to be a pitcher. You're not strong enough to be a pitcher. I was very thin and small when I was a kid. You can't even lift a ball. How am I going to teach you to be a pitcher? And that just tore through me. And I blamed him a lot for not giving me self confidence, not giving me self value. And the thing is, what? Part of that's my job. I got to be the one who builds my self confidence. I'm the one who loves me. I'm the one who values me. You get it from in here, not out there. And years later, when I became a stepfather and looked, I was what? Number one, dad was doing the best he could with the tools that he had, and he didn't have very many tools. We've all heard that one. And then the other one is I don't really believe he wanted to be a father. I don't think he wanted a family. You got to remember, I was born in the 60s, the mid 60s. And back then, that's what you did. You got out of high school, you got a job, you got married, you bought a house, you had a family. That's what he did. I was born in 65. My brother was born in 69. So my dad was, I think, 24 when he got married, 26 when he had me, and 29 when he had my brother. Now imagine that. I mean, today that's not common. There are people who get married younger, but a lot of people wait. I was one of those who waited. And I could really feel where, man, if I had been a family man that young, I don't think he wanted it. I think it was just what he was expected to do. And he kind of went along with what he felt society was doing and he gave up on his dreams. So I think he was angry about a lot of that. And it showed in some of the ways he interacted with myself and my brother. And there was a couple of years there where I didn't speak to him at all. I don't even know what it was, Ned, to be honest with you. I couldn't even tell you what it was. And to be honest with you, it was probably something I felt I was entitled to and was expecting. And he was honestly telling me no. And I probably got all pissed off and then I didn't speak to him for 2 years. Later in his life, we got very close in his 70s and he passed about 5 or 6 years ago. So I took a long look back at some of the lessons I got from him. And look, I got lessons in how not to behave. But I also got some really beautiful lessons in what to do and how to do it. And I will tell you, you said, what is it I honor about my father? What do I love about him? My father was incredibly generous. And I don't mean just financially, I mean with his time, with his wisdom, with his attention. And when he passed, I heard so many stories. People reached out to me on social media. They found me on social media and they reached out, and people that knew how to contact me. And the stories they told me of the impact my father had on their lives. He never said any of this to me. He never told me. My dad was just that quiet, humble guy, and he didn't talk about, oh, yeah, I did this for this guy today. But hearing it after, and I'm getting emotional about it now, but one guy that I work with for several years told me my father gave him his first job, took him out and bought him a suit so he could wear it to this job. And he held that job for 30 years, this guy. Came very successful at it, but my father was the one who saw that in him and went for it. And there was dozens of stories like that where people were, oh my God. Listen, I'll tell you a very quick one. We just did a documentary film that we produced, and part of it is around Hermes, the luxury house Hermes that makes the Birkin bag, and they make those beautiful square silk scarves. And there's only one person who's ever designed scarves for Hermes that wasn't French. He was an American, and his name was Kermit Oliver. And so we did a documentary on Kermit and his artwork and what a great, incredible contribution he's made to society. So we were at the premiere in New York City, and the CEO of Hermes is there. And everyone's around him and doing all this kind of stuff. And I went over to him after that all had died down. Very nice guy, very personable, down to earth. And I said, Bob, I said, hey, listen, I just want to introduce myself. I'm one of the producers of the documentary. We got to talking, and he said something about his first ever job in retail, because he says he's going to stay in retail. He was retiring from Hermes, but he's going to stay in retail. And he said, my first job was in retail. I worked for Bloomingdale's. And I saw my dad work for Bloomingdale's. And he said, what's your dad's name? And I told him, and he went wide-eyed. And he goes, your father gave me my first retail management job. I am here today as the CEO of Hermes because of your dad. And he was all excited. He was telling people at the event that he had worked for my father, and to see who this man was now and know that my dad had a hand in seeing that talent and putting him in that position. So those are the things that I really love about my father. And unfortunately, I said he's gone, so I haven't been able to honor him for that. But I do it in consciousness. I know he can hear me. So I'll tell him every now and then how much I love him. Yeah, it gets me emotional. And how much I honor him for the man he was. And the man he was a lot of times wasn't the man I thought he was. He was a hero, and I was making him out to be a villain. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question.
Yes. Beautiful and grateful for you sharing. And you don't have to respond to this, but I'll just make an assessment whether it's correct from your story or not. But dads, a couple things as we listen to Eric, his dad was doing amazing things and good, have impact in the world. But there was another word you said that if you could change anything, you wish your dad would have given you a little bit more attention. And I would say, guys, as we're listening to this, do good things in the world. Yes, do good things, but don't miss your most important responsibility, right? You chose your wife. Sure, you chose her. God gave you some kids. At the end, those are the ones who you really want to give your heart to in a way, right? Not to a career, not to something. Do that, yes, but not in place of the heart of your sons, the heart of your daughters. And it's not a time thing. That's the thing, is it's not, I mean, obviously you got to work 40 hours a week typically, right? It's not time, it's attention. I love that word. So as we go into this evening, as we go into this weekend, as we move forward, if you were your kid laying in bed falling asleep, do you think that they would feel safe and secure in the attention that you are providing them as a father?
I would say it's quality of attention. Just get that clear. You don't have to spend 4 hours with them. You could spend 15 minutes being totally present with them, giving them your full attention, and it will just fill them.
Eric, what a rich conversation. We could talk for another hour. I know it. So much good stuff here. But what I want to do is I want to pause and go, hey, there's a few more questions I have for you, but I want to go dig into some things. I want some guys to go read your book and then come back and unpack it together. Thank you, Eric, for the work you've done. Thank you for the man you are. Thank you for to have the courage, right? That's step one, to have the courage to be vulnerable, be yourself, work on yourself, and then share it with the world. I love that you're working with men, calling them up into their potential. And so, dude, I just bless you and just say, dude, keep being out in the world, providing life, calling people to look in the mirror and see who they were designed to be. Where can people find you? You can find your book, Lions Raises Lambs, Amazon, your website. There's some free bonuses on your website if you get it through your website. Anything else?
Yeah, just go to lionsraisedeslambs.com. You give a link to Amazon, but you just said there's some bonuses there. You can get to know me. You get on my list. You can find me on social media. I'm on all social media. Just reach out. I tell guys, have the courage to reach out. I mean, I'm a guy just you are. I answer everything myself, and I'd love to hear from you. And if you have any questions, absolutely get with me. But yeah, read the book. And Ned, I'm really excited for you too. So we can come back on and really dive into that and see where all these really empowering things for dads are in the book.
Yeah, I love it. I think this creates a great foundation, and then it'll lead to another great conversation. So, Eric, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for your work out in the world. Much love to you and your family, and I look forward to next time.
Thanks, man. It's just been such an honor to be here, and I love what you're doing, and I'm just honored to be a part of it.
All right, my friend. Thank you. What an incredible conversation. I really enjoyed Eric. I mean, we could have gone another hour. I'm looking forward to jumping in and diving into some other things more specifically sometime in the near future. The things that I'm really walking away from is, one, it's okay to be the villain, right? We didn't touch on this a ton, but it was something that impacted me, that when you are the guardian, you have this deep role, and it's not so much about being liked, it's about being respected. And so at times you are going to have to, in your kids' eyes, show up as the villain. And that is not only okay, it's what they need, and it's who you need to be. So that kind of led me into the other thing I really walked away from, is at certain points of your relationship with your kid, it is less important for you to be liked. And I even kind of have this picture of, it's like, all right, we have a ton of fun together, but right now I'm shifting from fun dad hat to leader dad hat or villain dad hat or whatever. So I want you to know why this is happening. You don't need to like it. And that's the thing, is I don't need you to like this, but I want you to know what's happening. So I think that would be helpful. All right, my friends, if you enjoy these conversations, please write a review. Please share it with a friend. Help spread the word that fatherhood matters. Thank you to all you dads out there listening to Fatherhood Field Notes podcast. What you do matters. Don't be like everybody else. Be yourself. That's who your kids, your spouse, and your community needs. This is your guide, Ned Schaut. Together, let's rebel against the view that fatherhood has little impact, and let's create lives engaged in mastering the craft of fatherhood. Much love to you, dudes. I look forward to hanging out with you next time.